Hello students, we shall be discussing about heavy metal pollution today, and in this lecture we shall be discussing about the toxicity mechanism, symptoms and the preventive measures. I am Dr. F. A. Lone, Professor, Division of Environmental Sciences, Past Kashmir. The broad outline of the lecture is that we need to study first the mechanism of the action of the heavy metals, causes and risk factors of the heavy metal poisoning, symptoms of heavy metal toxicity, how is heavy metal poisoning diagnosed, then the prevention of the heavy metal poisoning, and then why are heavy metals classified as toxic. Heavy metals are well-known environmental pollutants owing to their toxicity, longevity in the atmosphere, and ability to accumulate in the human body via bioaccumulation. Exposure to heavy metals can be dangerous to your health. While we use and interact with metals every day, certain heavy metals are toxic because the molecules that make up the metal, they damage or negatively interact with the cells in your body, and these are essential to keep your organs functions. Mechanism of the action of the heavy metals. As far as the heavy metals are concerned, they enter the body from different ways, including drinking water, air, food, or occasionally dermal exposure. Following absorption, heavy metals are retained and they bioaccumulate in the human body, leading to a diversity of toxic effects on the variety of body tissues and organs. And in the biological systems, these metals have been reported to affect cellular organelles and components such as cell membrane, mitochondria, lysosomes, endoplasmic reticulum, nuclei, and these heavy metals also affect the enzymes which are involved in the metabolism, detoxification and damage repairing process in the cells. And these metal ions have been also found to interact with the cell components such as DNA and nuclear proteins, causing DNA damage and conformational changes that may lead to cell cycle modulation, carcinogenesis or apoptosis, which means the death of the cells. So this is basically how different types of the heavy metals like cadmium, mercury, aluminum, iron, arsenic, chromium, they basically produce the reactive oxygen species in the cells, and they are very, very dangerous, and they ultimately lead to this apoptosis, which means the death of the cells. Then the mechanism of action also includes that they can have acute or chronic manifestations, and they can disrupt cellular events including growth, proliferation and differentiation in the living things. Toxic metals can also promote epigenetic, that means behavioral alterations, which is of course reversible, which can influence gene expressions. They can induce toxicity, including reactive oxygen generation. They can weaken the antioxidant defense in the cells. They can also inactivate the enzymes and also lead to the oxidative stress in the cells. They can also selectively bind to specific macromolecules like proteins, as lead is doing. And according to the United States Environmental Protection Agency and the International Agency for Research on Cancer, these metals are also classified as either known or probable human carcinogens based on epidemiological and experimental studies showing an association between exposure and cancer incidence in humans as well as in the animals. Then causes and risk factors of heavy metal poisoning. Heavy metal poisoning can be caused by industrial exposure. They can also be caused by air, water, or soil pollution, foods and improperly coated food containers, pellets and cookwares, medicines, ingestion of lead-based paints, ingestion of insecticides, herbicides and pesticides, absorption onto various materials, burning of wood and tobacco smoke. They also can cause they are also the risk factors. General source of heavy metals in residential houses, infiltration, and outside they may come along with the dust which is being carried on shoes and clothes. And as far as the symptoms of heavy metal toxicity are concerned, if your body's soft tissues accumulate too much of these substances, the resulting poisoning can cause serious health problems. And the symptoms of heavy metal poisoning depends on the type of the metal causing toxicity, duration of its exposure, age also, gender and health status of the exposed individuals. With arsenic and lead exposures, for example, symptoms may not show up for 2 to 8 weeks, but as far as cadmium poisoning is concerned, the symptoms may arise hours after exposure. And if you have an acute metal poisoning, which means that you are exposed to a large amount of metal at once, for example, by swallowing a toy, your symptoms may include confusion, numbness also, nausea, vomiting, and then if there is excess dose, the patient may go into coma also. And as far as long-term or chronic exposures to lower levels of heavy metals are concerned, they may cause and develop slowly over time. Symptoms may include headache, weakness, tiredness, muscle pain, and the joint pain. And apart from this, there are other symptoms also which have been attributed to the heavy metals, like abnormal heartbeat, arrhythmia, anemia also, when there is the less production of the RBCs in the blood and the oxygen carrying capacity also gets reduced, brain damage and memory loss. A person can feel difficulty in breathing. There may be a kidney damage. There may be a damage to the liver also. And it has been also reported that the heavy metal symptoms may lead to the miscarriages in the pregnant woman, and then also there is high risk for the development of the blood disease like cancer. Now, how is heavy metal poisoning diagnosed? You need to go for the complete blood count with blood smear, KFT or the kidney function test. You need to also go for the urine test, LFT or the liver functioning test. Then also you have to go for the electrocardiogram, and your symptoms and specific exposure will determine which test you receive. The following metals are the ones most tested for, like as I told you, they are very, very toxic elements like lead, mercury, arsenic, cadmium, and the chromium. Then what is the prognosis of the heavy metal poisoning? Prognosis means the chances of the recovery or the recurrence if a person is exposed to the heavy metal exposure, and if the diagnosis of the heavy metal poisoning is made before permanent damage is suspected, the prognosis is very, very good. And then the prevention of the heavy metal poisoning. The following tips may help you prevent heavy metal poisoning, like you have to wear masks and protective clothing if you work around heavy metals. Then also you may, since many metals accumulate in dust and dirt, you have to keep these out of your home as much as possible. That means you have to take a precautionary measure by removing your shoes before entering the house. Beware of the potential source of the heavy metal exposure, and avoid taking crops grown in the soils contaminated with the heavy metals, and avoid using livestock products fed from the heavy metal contaminated regions. Pay attention to local fish or the seafood advisories regarding mercury levels, and also you have to check for any heavy metal listed on the label of products you bring into your home. And also protective legislation against the use of metal alloys, cooking utensils is also required, and to control the exposure of the heavy metal pollution in the environment. Thank you, students, for watching this video. All the best. Take care.